You're born in Winterfell, a place where the average temperature is hope is dead, and every building looks like it was designed by a man who'd never heard of insulation. But you're different. You're not a Stark. You're not a warrior. You're not even a mildly important background character. You're Wylis, a stable boy, a big, sweet, giant-shaped marshmallow in a world where everyone else is a knife, while other Northerners grow up learning how to fight, argue, drink, plot, and occasionally come back from the dead. You grow up learning how to brush horses, feed horses, lead horses. Basically, the entire equestrian department of Winterfell relies on you, the one person in Westeros with zero drama. You don't want thrones, crowns, vengeance, or destiny. You want to do your job, stay warm, and maybe take a nap without being screamed at by some noble child who hasn't discovered deodorant yet. You're kind, you're quiet, you're peaceful, which means Westeros looks at you and immediately says, yeah, let's ruin that. Because if there's one universal law in the entire world of Game of Thrones, it's this. The nicer you are, the more the plot will absolutely wreck your life. And, oh boy, does it. Before the door, the life you were supposed to have. Before the chaos, before the time loop, before your brain became a broken voicemail, repeating one tragic phrase for the rest of your life. You were Wylis, and you were fine. Actually fine, not medieval fine, where you're secretly dying from 5 untreated conditions. You had full vocabulary, friends in the stables, a job you understood, a body shaped like strongest man in the North, emotionally stable edition. People liked you. Kids looked up to you. Grown men trusted you with their horses. You even laughed, that thing people do when life hasn't traumatized them yet. Your biggest problems? Whether a horse was colicky, whether you needed more water, whether Bran was going to wander into the stables unsupervised again. Nothing supernatural, nothing catastrophic, nothing existential. You had a future, just not an extraordinary one, and that was enough. But the universe of Game of Thrones doesn't like people who are enough. It likes to take perfectly functioning lives and treat them like limited edition collectibles to be broken for narrative value. When time punches you in the brain, here's where everything derails. One day, through a combination of Bran Stark, wizard puberty, a magical tree, some questionable three-eyed raven curriculum, and the cosmic equivalent of a software glitch, your entire consciousness gets snapped like a pretzel across time. What actually happens? Bran is fleeing for his life in the future. Bran wargs into present-day you. Bran's vision pulls past you into the moment your future self is dying. Your brain receives all of that trauma simultaneously. Your mind shatters like a poorly crafted Valyrian knockoff. Psychologically, this is every category of trauma at the same time. Dissociation. Your brain evacuates the building to avoid collapsing under the psychic earthquake identity collapse. Language, gone. Speech, fragmented. Sense of self, disassembled like IKEA furniture missing half the screws. Temporal trauma looping. You simultaneously see your future death, live your present horror, and collapse into a childhood state. Your central nervous system basically says, nope, we are not built for this patch update. Someone screams, "Hold the door!" Your traumatized brain grabs onto it like a floating piece of driftwood in the ocean. Hold the door, hold the door, Hodor, Hodor. And that's it. That's the last full sentence your brain ever successfully files under things that make sense. Your entire life gets hijacked by one panicked command happening 40 years in the future, delivered by a time-traveling teenager who still can't handle basic communication without causing spiritual property damage. You didn't lose intelligence. You lost coherence, the mental equivalent of a hard drive corruption caused by emotional malware. You became a closed-loop prophecy, forged by psychic negligence, temporal lag, and whatever warranty the three-eyed raven absolutely did not come with. And if any of this feels familiar, it should. Because this is basically verse jumping without consent. The same identity splintering, timeline echoing, brain buffering phenomenon we broke down in our video. Is mental illness just multiverse overload? Which you can check out by clicking here, where we talked about parallel selves crashing into each other, trauma echoes ricocheting through time, memory fragmentation as a feature, not a bug. Hodor isn't simple. He's a man whose consciousness got dragged across branching timelines so violently that only one phrase survived the crash. A living paradox, a human glitch, a gentle soul caught in a multiverse he never asked to download. Now you're Hodor, human being replaced with one-line patch notes. From Wylis to Hodor. People look at you and assume you're slow, simple, empty-headed, but inside, you're still you. Just trapped behind a trauma wall so thick the Night King himself would need a dragon to get through it. You understand feelings, you understand tone, you understand danger, you understand love and fear and loyalty. You just can't articulate anything beyond the word your nervous system welded into your brain during the world's worst supernatural panic attack. Psychologically, this is selective mutism, trauma-induced speech fragmentation, chronic dissociation, identity foreclosure. You become a man living inside a sentence he didn't choose. And that's the tragedy. The world thinks you're simple-minded. The truth is, you're trauma-silenced. Congratulations, you're now a medieval Uber horse. Next phase of your existence, you become the family minivan. Bran Stark breaks his spine. Guess who's carrying him? Bran Stark decides to go on a magical spirit quest. Guess who's carrying him? Bran Stark wants to climb into a tree and see visions of the past. Guess who's standing there holding him like he's a sleep-deprived toddler? You. You're no longer Wylis. You're a transportation system with anxiety. You carry Bran through frozen forests, through wildling territory, through undead-filled nightmares, through magical training sessions, through mountains, rivers, caves, and questionable spiritual internships. And the worst part? You don't get breaks. There's no PTO, no complimentary saddle, not even a thank you half the time. Bran's entire journey depends on you, which means you're living through the 24/7 consequences of someone else's destiny. Psychologically, this is known as learned helpless obedience. When your environment strips away choice so thoroughly that you automatically comply, you're not choosing to obey. You're choosing survival. Being warged against your will, the ultimate HR violation. Bran discovers he can warg into humans. Terrifying news for literally everyone, but especially you. Because to Bran, this is just a fun new DLC he unlocked in the skill tree to you. It's a full-body possession event happening 15 times a season with no warning, no consent form, and no cooldown timer. When Bran wargs into you, he treats your body like it's a forklift, a battering ram, an all-terrain Uber XL, a medieval Roomba, a human power bank, and an emotional support plushie, all at once. Every time he slips into your mind, your consciousness gets pushed aside like an app minimized in the background. You're still open. You're still running. You're just not in charge. You feel everything. The cold, the panic, the pain, but you can't control anything. Psychologically, this is a buffet of suffering. Loss of bodily autonomy, possession trauma, disembodiment, identity dysregulation, forced co-op mode you never agreed to. Bran enters your body so casually, the HR department of Westeros would spontaneously combust. If Westeros had HR, or rights, or ethics, or even a suggestion box. And here's the tragic twist. He doesn't mean to hurt you. He's not malicious. He's just a traumatized tween with psychic Wi-Fi and zero supervision. But trauma doesn't care about intentions. It prints across your nervous system like a permanent watermark. You're not just living your own life anymore. You're living inside someone else's mission, literally, emotionally, metaphysically. Your destiny gets overwritten by a boy who can barely climb a tree. The icy apocalypse you didn't apply for. As if time loop brain damage, forced obedience, and being the Stark family's unofficial Uber XL weren't enough. The zombies arrive. Because Westeros doesn't believe in giving you one source of trauma. Oh no, it believes in bundling trauma like a medieval Comcast package. You were already terrified of taxes, nobles, winter, dragons, wolves, politics, marriage alliances, food poisoning, Bran's sudden psychic logins. But now you also have to fear skeletons, ice demons, necromancy, blue-eyed corpse giants, undead horses, a man who looks like he moisturizes with frostbite and broken promises. No one warned you, no one asked you. You definitely did not sign the end-of-the-world participation waiver. All you ever wanted was a quiet barn, a warm bowl of stew, maybe one peaceful nap. Instead, your daily itinerary becomes run, carry Bran. Don't die. Try not to drop Bran, still running. Your lungs are filing HR complaints. Your entire nervous system locks itself into emergency broadcast mode permanently. Hypervigilance isn't just a symptom. It becomes your dominant personality trait. Did you hear a twig snap? Zombie, bandit, wildling, your own heartbeat. Who knows? All four feel equally threatening. Psychologically, this is trauma layering, the artisanal, handcrafted cocktail of fear. Each catastrophic event stacks on top of the last like a Jenga tower built out of pure dread, until eventually, fear stops being a reaction and becomes your baseline operating system. You aren't living anymore. You're surviving in 4K ultra anxiety. The door, your destiny, was a death scene. This is it. The moment your whole life has been circling. You're in a tunnel beneath a weirwood tree. Bran is unconscious because of course he is. Mira is screaming at you to run. The undead are swarming. The cave is collapsing. Your friends are dying. You don't have time to think. You barely have time to breathe. You push Bran's sled. You get him out. You turn back. You brace the door with your entire body. And Mira screams,
"Hold the door!"
You hear it. Present you hears it. Past you hears it. The Wylis inside you hears it decades earlier through Bran's vision. Your past, present, and future collide in a single moment of unbearable clarity. Your name, the one you've used your entire adult life, suddenly reveals itself as the command that ends your life. Psychologically, this is trauma reactivation, time loop dissociation, predestination-induced PTSD. You aren't brave because you choose to be. You're brave because you were programmed by trauma to obey this moment. But here's the part that breaks everyone. Even though the command came from trauma, the heart of the act is yours. You hold the door because you love Bran, because you want him safe, because kindness survived inside you despite everything. Your final moment is terror and sacrifice braided together. Your last breath is spent protecting a boy who accidentally broke you, and your legacy becomes a single word, a single wound, a single destiny. The aftermath nobody talks about. After you die, the world just keeps going, not respectfully, not quietly, not even with a moment of silence. It just shrugs and continues its regularly scheduled chaos. Bran becomes the three-eyed raven, basically Westeros' first Wi-Fi router with unlimited data and zero personality. Jon becomes king for, a week and a half. The medieval equivalent of being promoted during your last shift before quitting. Arya becomes Dora the Explorer with a kill list. Sansa evolves into Beyoncé of the North. And Daenerys, well, let's just say she failed her final driving exam with a dragon. But your story ends in a frozen hallway. No throne, no song, no epilogue narrated by Sam. Just you, collapsing under a door you held shut with every last atom of strength. Your entire life, your body, your mind, your identity gets swallowed by a destiny you never applied for. And the world's reaction? Wow, tragic. Scrolls to next prophecy. People remember your name, but not the truth behind it. They don't know you were smart before your brain got split across time like a medieval software glitch. They don't know you were whole before Bran's Psychic Spotify Premium downloaded trauma directly into your nervous system. They don't know you weren't simple. You were rewritten, reprogrammed, reformatted by a temporal meltdown you never even saw coming. You didn't lose yourself. You were hijacked by the timeline and forced into a prophecy you never agreed to join. And somehow, in all that pain, all that confusion, all that mental fragmentation, you stayed gentle, you protected, you carried, you loved in the only ways you could still express. This is legacy trauma. When the world builds statues out of your suffering, tells your story without your voice, and remembers you for the wound instead of the person your memory belongs to the world now. But your truth stayed trapped behind that door with you. Why it really sucks to be Hodor. So why does it suck to be Hodor? Because you lost your identity, lost your voice, lost your autonomy, lost your childhood, lost your future, lost your consent, lost your life, and still became a hero anyway. Your story is a paradox. You were gentle in a brutal world, and the world punished you for it. You didn't choose magic. You didn't choose destiny. You didn't choose sacrifice. But in the end, you chose kindness, even when kindness hurt. Because being Hodor means being the tragedy, the heart, and the unsung hero of Game of Thrones, all at once. Which moment in Hodor's story hit you the hardest? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear the theories, the heartbreak, and the multiverse level coping. Smash that like button if your brain feels 30% sadder, but 70% wiser after realizing Hodor was basically a time-fractured hero the whole time, and hit subscribe if you're into ideas that stick, figures that sketch. Ready for your next system update? Tap here and keep playing smart.